Welcome back to the Business of Becoming. I am your host, Stephanie. And today we are going to be talking about this very, very known line called mind over matter. And many of us have heard it before, but today I want to really dive into mind over matter does not mean ignoring your feelings. And when we hear this phrase, mind over matter, people are just like, yeah, you just got to go through it and just go like push through your feelings, push through this, be a tough one. And while that may work for a short period of time, it is not longevity. It is not going to sustain anything real. So, if you are new here, I want to remind you that this is a safe place in the business of becoming. This is a place where we get to talk about not just your business, but your home and your heart, and all of those things that make you actually become somebody better, make you become somebody real and human and that people can connect with. This is all about being honest, and I think today's episode where we really dive into all the suppressed feelings that we have been pushing down just so that we can get on with our day, it really just hits home because I've found in many seasons of my life where I've tried to be the tough one or I've tried to be the one that like powers through. And again, it is good, but it's not what's going to last. And it's definitely not what's going to make you a better, stronger individual. Suppressing what you feel actually makes you weaker rather than stronger. And we're going to dive into that. We're going to get into it. And I mean really into it because what we've heard this term, mind over matter. And especially for high achieving men and women, that term is so corporately used because it is what a good leader does. They push through. They don't have time to cry. They don't have time to be in their feelings. And to a point I understand because as a leader and as a boss and as people, I have people under me. I don't want to constantly be dealing with somebody that has the same, you know, emotional issues all the time, or who was always bummed or who was always sad or who I get that, and I understand why people would come and say that and use it so loosely. But in reality, I just feel like instead of just saying that, why can't we teach people how to overcome that suppression or how to overcome what they're feeling, right? Or how to name them. Because today we're going to talk about these 5 shifts that have helped me, not only as a mom, as a boss, as someone who has dealt with their own things in life, but has really helped me teach others around me how we can shift our mindset from just powering through, because yeah, you could do that, but actually feeling it through, actually letting it integrate with your life and be stronger from these things that you are dealing with and what you're feeling. Because the truth is, what if we've been using this phrase wrong? Because in reality, what if this phrase of mind over matter is actually working against us? I know many high achieving people that they've used that phrase for so long, but then they've lost the thread to themselves because we are in such a performance mentality that we cannot have time to feel. And it puts us in a position where we're just performing and we are just trying to make people around us see this strong, armored version of us that is trucking through. And it doesn't let you be real. It doesn't let you be human. It doesn't let you personalize with your people. There's a laundry list of things that it blocks you from. There's a laundry list of things that it kind of almost teaches you to have an avoidant personality, you know? And I don't think that that is good for us. It is not good for you as a mom. It is not good for you as a leader. It is not good for you as a parent or anything. It's having an avoidant personality will bleed into your business, your personal relationships with friends, or intimate relationships with someone that you're trying to start something with. And in reality, I think what I'm going to share in this episode, I constantly have to check myself and do it because we have to feel overwhelmed. There are moments where I don't care who you are or what you do and how much faith you have, because you all know that I am someone who, faith is a part of my life. But you're going to feel crazy. You're going to feel overwhelmed. You're going to feel feelings. And your first instinct sometimes, especially for people who are high achievers, is to, well, don't got time for that. Put that down. I got to do this. I got to do that. This is priority. And then you end up just never feeling them. You end up that, oh, I'll deal with this later. Later becomes never, and never becomes anxiety, and never becomes personal health battles, never becomes panic attacks, when you're just like, whoa, what just happened here? How did I get from killing it in sales and, hitting all my markers? Why am I sitting down in this car freaking out, having a panic attack, or crying overwhelmingly? Like, that's what I'm going to get into, because that's where I found out in my life that I was just using this phrase of mind over matter to get through a season of my life, but I really wasn't getting through it. I was just trying to avoid it. And that's what I want to talk to you about. It's not about avoiding that season of your life and, oh, because you hit your goals, you're okay. Or, oh, because you paid your mortgage, you're fine. Or, oh, because your sales team is doing okay, you don't got to worry about what you felt. Or you don't got to worry about how that made you feel. No, you might not have to do it at that moment, but you got to give yourself a safe place to digress and hear your body, hear your soul, hear what it's trying to teach you. Because that's what we are. We are humans. We are not robots. We're in the near future right now. I mean, AI is taking over, and eventually robots will roam like the Jetsons everywhere. But right now, in the world that I live in, we're human, and the people that I work with and the relationships that I build and respect and value and trust are with humans, are with people who have gone through it and have something to share, to connect with and personalize yourself with, and say, oh, okay, I'm not just crazy. We feel things too. It's okay not to be at your 100% best and still succeed. So don't let anybody lie to you and tell you that mind over matter, don't worry about it. You got to be at 110% today. No, you can operate at your 80% or whatever that looks like for you, and still learn to integrate those feelings and say, okay, I'm not okay, but I will be. All right, let's start here. And I'm going to try to bring this into a full circle moment eventually. But we were taught that mind over matter just meant that if we listened too much to our mind, that we would just be all over the place and nothing would actually get done, right? That crying is a weakness. And I know for sure, as a female leading a male-dominant industry, I couldn't show much of my emotions professionally, because it would be weak. It would be, oh, she's too feminine. She's too girly. She's on her period. She's, And I would seem weak feeling what I was feeling. I would seem weak missing my kids on a business trip. I would seem weak because I was leaving early to make it to a Mother's Day brunch for my daughter's school. Talking so much about that kind of put us in a place where we had to, hey, push through. We gotta do this. We can't talk about what is really yearning, from inside of us. And I don't know if this is just for everyone. I'm sure men deal with it too, but I know moms especially, we deal with so much of how much we can take our feelings into the workplace, and how much of that looks as a weakness. How much of our kids can we talk about? If we should say that we have this many kids and that they have this many problems and this much attention that their needs need to be met. I really want to hone in to where this stems from. Because for us, it's like needing a break. Oh, you're not cut out for this. You couldn't say that you had to take a second because you weren't cut out to sit at the table if you needed a moment to process what was going on. And even in faith, if you were struggling, and I think this created kind of like a fear. As I grew up in my faith, right? When I was 11, I made that decision to follow my faith. And growing up, I remembered if I struggled with anything, it was like, oh, your faith, you don't have faith. Ah, you're not someone who's spirit-filled because you're struggling. And that's so wrong. That's not human, because Jesus wept. The Bible says it. The man had feelings and he wept and he struggled with things. This whole mind over matter really just corporately took over in this narrative, especially when women really started to go into the work field, that we gotta silence or suppress what we feel. That can't enter our workplace. That's non-existent here. And I want to make sure that I'm reaching the right people, because not everyone that's on this channel is an entrepreneur. Not everyone that's on this channel has their own business and, runs, multiple businesses or whatnot, or leads people or leads teams. Some of you guys are in the workplace. You guys are employees, and maybe high-level employees. You're still high-achieving people. And maybe you can relate with me, because I was never always a boss. I've been an employee for a long period of time. And I just remember, like, I was not able to live and share all of these real feelings that I had because they were weaknesses. What did this teach us? What did this teach me? Yeah, this is my story here, right? So what did this teach me? This taught me to learn how to manage my feelings rather than learn how to hear them and name them. I just learned how to manage them. And by managing them, I didn't feel them. I went through years of not dealing with traumas or emotions or feelings that I had because I was hustling. I was into that hustle culture where I got to push through. I got to get to the next level. I got to hit my markers. I got to make money. I got to buy this. I got to buy that. I want to have this by this age. Like, I went through all of that, except instead of actually saying, well, hold up. Let me backtrack and make sure what my body's telling me, what I'm feeling right now. What is this teaching me? And thankfully, I learned that later in life, and I'm still learning that. But I didn't have emotional intelligence early on. And this is a big reason why I want to talk about this on this podcast, because a lot of the subscribers, a lot of the people who are listening, like, we struggled learning about emotional intelligence growing up. And if we can identify these things, we're not going to let our kids fall into that same trap. We're not going to let our team fall into that same trap. We're not going to let the people and the young minds that are coming in that, are innovative, that are strong, that can have ideas that will change the way we operate and can maximize our business. We got to teach them these things, because mind over matter will burn them out. That's what it does. It burned me out. It gassed me out. Not to the point where I didn't have, my light was on, the E-tank was like, no, I had nothing, nada, no gas. And many of you are listening to me and saying, oh, that's how I feel. You wake up and then the first thing that you think of is just, oh, here we go again. It's dreadful. It's dreadful. And that's not healthy. That's not building anything in you. All that is doing is just carrying you through. You're going in and out with the waves, and you're not doing anything to actually make a difference in your life and to actually be someone of influence. You're just letting whatever hits you hit you, and and that's not life. That's not who we are in the business of becoming. We are stronger than what we think we are, and we don't let our emotions rule us, but we do have to listen to them and let them teach us how to get to where we need to get to and how to be the better version of ourselves, because that's what's going to sustain us. In this next version of yourself is going to sustain the next season of your life. So you got to listen to what your body's telling you, what your feelings are telling you, because a lot of the times that intuition can help you avoid that mistake again. If you actually process things that have happened to you, you can learn not to let that affect you in the same way. Or you can learn how to see things from a mile away before it even happens and say, oh, here's how to properly protect myself so I don't go through this spiral again. I'm coming off of somebody who's I am at the stage of my life where I know what it's like to have been married. Now I know what it's like to, be going through a divorce and co-parenting and all this stuff. And let me tell you, as I'm, trying to find love again, as I'm trying to deal with, learning the ropes of a new relationship, I won't do those same mistakes again. I won't do things that I didn't pick up and I didn't notice, and I just quieted my emotions because I didn't want to be annoying or I didn't want to feel like you were nagging, or that you were too much. And honestly, dear, I am so grateful that I can learn from these situations in my life rather than just say, oh my God, I can't believe that happened to me. Yeah, I went through that. Don't worry, I did. But to learn from that and say, I don't want to carry that version of myself into another season of my life, which can be beautiful. It can be rebuilding, a love that can really just make a big difference in my life and my kids' life and all that stuff. And I don't know if that's you, if maybe you're like, hey, I'm a single mom now and I don't know what it's like to date in this world. Well, first find out what you did wrong. First find out what you don't want or to want to ever experience again. And find ways to just hear what your body was saying in the moments where you never spoke up for yourself. What about those times that you suppressed all those feelings in that relationship because you thought you were too much? You thought that could lead into a bigger problem. Do you want to carry that into your next relationship? No. No, you want freedom to be yourself. You want freedom to evolve. You want the space to feel like I'm growing from who I was now as an individual and learning to do that with somebody else. Everybody's got baggage. You just need to learn how to deal with yours and not let it be baggage that is going to drown you and anchor somebody else. Because that's not fair to you, neither to somebody who wants to do something or wants to have a life with you. And I'll tell you what stopped me in my tracks and made me wake up. I was talking to this very successful and, brilliant person who was a mom and successful, the whole nine. And I was talking to her and she said something that just made me go whoosh. And she said, I don't have the luxury to have feelings. And yeah, I heard it. And instead of being like, oh my gosh, wow, that's amazing. Congratulations on your success. I was like, oh, I hear myself and I don't like it. I heard myself in that phrase because I've said that so many times in my life. And as an adult now, I was just like, oh, I wouldn't want my daughter to feel like that. I wouldn't want my daughter to ever say those words, that she doesn't have the luxury to feel. No. I have kids now. Before, yeah, I'm hustling. I didn't care about anything. I didn't have luxury to feel. But now my perspective's changed because I've realized how important it is to feel things. Because as a youth, I didn't deal with things. I didn't process things enough. I wasn't taught to do so. I come from a very Hispanic background. So therapy was like, oh, you got problems. There is no hope for you. Or, you went to a doctor because you just wanted to get checked out and you just wanted to see like, hey, am I okay here? That was like, oh, no. Absolutely not. That was a hell no in my household. And again, they weren't taught that. So they're teaching us from their parents and those traumas and those things. They all just get passed down generationally. And I'm so grateful that I was able to break that cycle in my life, even if it was later on in life, because now with my children, I'm teaching them that there is a safe place to talk about these feelings. And my son, yeah, you can cry. You can cry. You're not going to be a cry baby, but you can cry. You can feel things. You can tell me why you're upset. And then he'll tell me, oh, Heidi took my toy. And I'm like, okay, let's go fix this. Let's go make this happen. So when I heard myself in this, woman, I was like, damn, No, don't like that. It gave me the ick with myself. It gave me the ick with myself because I just didn't find that strength. I didn't see that as a strength. I saw that as self-imploding. I saw that as, like, in that moment I saw all, like a movie of all the times where I had these random outbursts of emotions, and they would look different to everyone, but for me they were, snapping. There was days I just couldn't hold it all in, and I would snap. And that would be at, my kid, when they would do something like normal that kids do. I would snap, and then I'd catch myself, and I'd be like, oh, wait, hold on, that's not motherly. you know or I would snap at work, and I was just sassy, and that's not really something that's going to keep respect in the work field. I would find myself at 2 a.m. just going over in my head constantly, like, am I doing the right thing? Is this the, like, I would just be in cycles and in circles, and all of that would lead to just built up anxiety. And then the next day, when I was stronger, quote unquote, I would just say, well, nah, gotta do what I gotta do, and just go through the day and not deal with it, or not see, hey, I'm really dealing with something here. This isn't healthy. Because it's going to come back up again. This is stuff that goes under the rug, but it's going to come back up. It can't be stuck down for too long, because the moment something else happens, everything's going to flood back out. I'll give you guys an example. I was in a bad place mentally. This was a couple years ago. And I remember that I thought that I had it all together. Yeah, I tried to project that I had it all together. I had the family, I had the kids, I had, the house. I had a lot. But it was just this, like, shadow over my life that was not allowing me to be free. It was not allowing me to be happy and enjoy even what I was doing, enjoy being a mom, enjoy the life that I had, enjoy the work that I was doing. It was like a blockade. And I remember in the summer that it was right before my birthday. My birthday's in August, just in case you guys want to send me something. But it was right before August, and we got hit with bad news in our company. I remember my sister came up to me, and she's like, dude, this sucks right now. Like, we have this major issue. And that year just felt like, bro, every week I couldn't catch a break. Like, every day was something. Every week I had to deal with, like, a huge fire. And not something tiny. It was big. I was dealing with so much with my family's, their health, and my kids, their health. My struggles in the business was one of the first years that I really just honed into, being the boss and moving into a new place. And it was just so much going on. I guess because I never was that person that would outrightly be like, this is what I'm dealing with, or at least with that circle of people. I just hid all of it. I just suppressed it because I was the boss. I was the leader. I was, the sister that was strong and that can handle everybody's feelings, and I got this. I even did that for my parents. I did that for everybody around me. I just remember that one news, and it wasn't even that dramatic, but it was like the straw that broke the, what was it? The straw that broke the camel's back. And I packed up my stuff and I left. Packed up my kids, packed up everything, packed up our house, and we said, okay, I gotta go. And I dipped it. I left for like 3 weeks, like 2 or 3 weeks. I called my sister and I told her, hey, I need your help. And this was probably one of the few times in my life that I had done that. Now I do it all the time, but before I didn't. I told her, look, I really need your help. I have no mental capacity to deal with another problem because I'm falling apart. This whole mind over matter thing has been killing me from the inside out, and I need to take a break. I'm going to take a break now for my birthday, and I'm going to take the kids. I'm going to go out. We're just going to disappear for a little bit, and I need you to step in and help me fix it. I'll be available, very limited, but I need it because I'm drowning. And it was the first time in my life that I actually said that out loud. Because to me, it was so shameful to feel like a failure, or to have a problem that I couldn't solve at that moment, or that I wasn't gonna solve. That was never built into my character. Like, I would see a problem and I was the first one to jump on how to fix it. I would never abandon anybody. It was like, no, I had to be there. But in that moment, I just knew that I was not only abandoning like my kids for so long, and and again, not that I wasn't there as a mom, but it was like I had to prioritize everything else because bills and expenses and everything like that was my role. So I was like, I gotta do this. And I just remember it was everything came up like wow. And I had sat down in the car and I couldn't even get inside my house. Everything just like came out as just like floods. And that was the first time that I was like, well, I really haven't dealt with these things. I really haven't dealt with what it's like to feel like things are chaotic and that I'm struggling right now. I'm struggling. I have fear. I have, disappointment in myself. All of these different things that just started coming out. And that was a really big shift for me because for the first time I not just asked for help, but I knew that I was in a pit and I needed somebody to help me out and I needed to break free. And none of us are as dramatic usually. Nobody just packs up and just gets out all the time. But that was crazy. That was a pivotal moment for me that I still remember to this day. And those around me remember because they were like, oh, she's not here? You should see my staff. They were like, what the hell is going on? That's not Stephanie's character. And again, when you suppress things for so long, you do things that are completely out of character because you're doing things at that point out of desperation to save yourself. And it's that diet that we're fed that, you can sleep when you're dead and you can yada yada. Like it's what we've been taught forever. And it cost so much of me that I never want anybody to feel like they're hopeless or that they're too much or that their feelings can't be expressed at a table. With caution, obviously, but you should have people that can hear you out and give you guidance because my biggest fear was I didn't have the space to do that. When in reality I did. I just limited myself to think that I didn't, to feel what I had to feel. So the lie that we're told is that mind over matter means your feelings don't matter. And that is a lie that I will expose for you today because it is the exact opposite. The exact opposite of how you're going to be able to build success and be able to carry it gracefully. You got to give yourself the opportunity to grieve. Whether you're going through a divorce, whether you're going through a breakup, whether you are going through, even for me, there was a time where I was grieving not being the mom that I had thought that I would be. Not that I'm a terrible mom. Actually, I think I'm a great mom. And my kids tell me that I'm a great mom, and my kids remind me of that daily. But since I was young, I always wanted to be a mom. And I didn't want to be an entrepreneur. I didn't know what that looked like as a kid. So when I first got pregnant and I had my kid, Heidi, I didn't get to spend so much of that time with her because I was so busy with work. At that point, I was really pulling in a lot of the weight at my office and at my house. And I was just like, okay, I got to, I got to make this happen. So I didn't get to spend the amount of time that, a stay-at-home mom would, right? So many of you guys can relate to this because we have to work. We have our 9 to 5s or we have this and we think we're failing our kids because we're not there every second of the day. So when I found out I was pregnant with my son, I just went into a full panic mode because I was like, oh my God, this same thing is going to happen. And this time it's going to be even worse because not only am I not going to have enough time for him, now I have another little one that she's going to want to demand more time from me. And it was this weird feeling that I couldn't name for a long time until finally I broke. And that moment in my car really reminded me that I was grieving at that point. I was grieving that. I was grieving the fact that I had strived for so long and I still wasn't able to be home as much as I wanted to be and, see these little moments in their lives. And yes, I had my routine where I was always, there for these moments and whatnot, but this was before my life was so organized, right? And the times I would make were just, I'm going to make time, and I was always letting somebody down. And I didn't care because they were my kids, right? But so many of us as parents, we don't get that luxury. We have to work. We have to clock in. We have to clock out. And as an entrepreneur, that clocking in and clocking out really doesn't exist. So I'm at a park and I'm still on my phone, answering a call, and I'm chasing these kids. And a lot of the times, if you've done business with me and you're listening, I usually start the call saying, hey, I got my little ones with me. So if you hear them, just say what's up. But let's get this done. Let's go, And I had to learn how to integrate them in my life, because at that time I didn't know how to integrate them. I just thought that, oh my God, if my kids were on the call, it was going to be terrible. This was not going to look professional. And it was this fear of like, oh, I have to be perfect. So being able to name that grief was vital for me. It was a big part of overcoming this whole mind over matter shift. And you need to feel that, not wallow in it, but you need to feel that. You need to name those things. You need to understand what you're feeling and name it, so that you don't just feel hopeless and just say, I don't know what's wrong with me. Because then you're going to stay there for weeks and months and years, and cycles and seasons are going to pass, and you're just going to be living in a graveyard of your feelings. And you can't name anything. You're just being a Casper, being a ghost, and just walking around soulless at that point. And I realized that the moment in the car was not my weakest moment, even though it felt like my weakest moment. It was actually a huge shift and a huge start to my becoming moment. The moment that I realized, oh, I gotta become somebody better that can handle this, that can learn from this, that can deal with this, because this is not the first time I'm going to feel like this. And I promise you guys this, it will not be your only time where you find yourself overwhelmed with feelings, especially if you're a parent. You're going to find yourself overwhelmed with feelings a bunch of times, especially when your kids start driving. Jeez, you're going to have to feel it, and you're going to have to name it. Okay, we're going to pause here because I want to make sure that you're checking in with me and that this is landing. Okay, this whole car story, I know one of us have felt that way. So if this lands with you, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, or share it with somebody that you think it will land with. And no, it's not for the algorithm, but yes, it is. So do me a favor. So many of you guys, I see you on the channel and you haven't liked and subscribed. Do so that this becomes not just a place for us to share, but to build a community. All right, we're not done. We're going to get into the good stuff here. I'm going to share with you guys the 5 shifts that I've had to make mentally to transition over this mind over matter. The first one is, what is mind over matter? What does it really mean? The old definition of mind over matter is push through, don't feel, just keep swimming type of thing. The new definition that I want you guys to adopt is your mind is wise enough to move with what matters. You're giving yourself some credit here. Your feelings matter, your intuition matters, your exhaustion matters, your body, your soul, that matters. And it's wisdom when you're able to learn how to navigate that and hear it and say, oh, my body needs rest, or I need a little bit of joy right now in this season, or I'm feeling way too overwhelmed and way too anxious. I need to take a step back and rewrite my goals or rewrite my plan. You got to listen to yourself. Integration is the word that I want to give you, because integration allows you to see all these things and integrate them with your life, instead of suppression, which is, I think I feel it, but I'm not even going to go into that. Integration says, I feel it, I'm going to sit with it, and I'm going to find a wise choice on what I can do with this or what I can learn from this. Mind over matter should now mean, oh, this is resilience. This is how resilience is built. That's what I want you guys to learn so much from everything I've been saying. All right, the first mindset shift we're going to do is from push through to feel through. Push through is stop thinking that you're going to be able to run away from your feelings or run away from the actual things that are happening right now. Because what you feel, it's inside of you. So you can't outrun yourself. You have to stop and say, hey, let me feel through this, because no matter how fast I'm trying to run away from myself, this is something that's living in me. And anywhere I go or any level that I go higher or I level up, it's going to stay with me. So mindset shift is forget the push through and exercise the feel through. You don't need to exercise it by sitting in it and wallowing, but give yourself a 10-minute grace period, whether it's in the morning, whether it's in the week, whatever it is. I can tell you what I do. I sit down in my office and I pray. And I don't push through my feelings. I say them out loud. And I say, okay, this is what I'm feeling right now. Or I go to therapy, but mainly I do pray. And I say, this is what I'm feeling. I gotta sit through this and say these things out loud so that I understand where I'm at and I can understand how I can face these challenges today. And then feel like a conqueror at the end of the day. Shift number 2, suppression to acknowledgement. Suppression is that feeling's not here. It doesn't exist. Acknowledgement is I see you, you're real, and you're showing up here today. Because if you know anything about grief, it hits you in waves. If you're grieving something, it's not going to hit you one time and it's done. It's only going to show up, and it'll show up randomly. So when you feel something and you can name it, acknowledge it and give it the space that you want to give it. Not the space that it deserves, but the space that you want to give it to acknowledge. Why do you do that? Because when you acknowledge something, then you're taking away the power from that feeling to control you. You're saying, oh, I know you're here now. Okay, I feel this grief. I know you're here. Now, it's not going to control my day. I'm going to give you your time, and I'm going to write down what I'm feeling or journal it or pray about it. And then eventually, I'm going to find the way to overcome this today. I'm going to give it its time, but I'm not going to let it control whatever I have going on today. The moment you can name something, you are no longer giving that the room to navigate and control and demand anything else from you. You're no longer at its mercy when you can name your feeling, when you can name the situation that's going on. At that point, you can really claim it back and say, okay, this is what I feel, but this is not what I'm going to make it be for the rest of the day or the rest of my life. Acknowledge it and name it before it names you. Before you don't acknowledge it, and then you just become the person that's always gloomy and always depressed and always anxious. So name it before it names you and becomes you. You don't want to be bitter in this life. You want to learn how to process these things so that they don't carry on to every other facet of your life that had no place to be in to begin with. Shift number 3, performance to presence. Performance says I need to show the world that I am okay and that I am doing great. Presence is saying I need to feel okay about this. I need to feel okay with myself. Because performing only lasts for a little bit. And if you do it so often, you lose the thread to yourself. You lose who you actually are in this life, which makes you non-human and makes you non-relatable and makes you someone that you can't really connect with, which will limit you so much in business. And I'm even talking about sales here, dear, because as a top seller in my firm, before I even know that, before everything, as a top saleswoman and as a high achieving woman, the way I got most of my sales was through connecting with my clients. Whether it was in the smallest details of their house, whether it was the fact that they had kids, and I had nieces at that time, but I can tell you, hey, I know what it's like. Oh man, you've been with somebody for, your kid has had a 104 fever. Have you done this? Have you done, like, if you stop being yourself and connecting with people and just having this performance, people can smell that from a mile away. People can smell that from a mile away. I have stopped my sales pitch to being present with my client in the moment of their lives where it's chaotic because they just had a massive storm come through and they've lost everything. So I had to stop performing and just be present for them. How can I help you outside of the services that I can provide? How can I be real? How can I be somebody who's not just another person who's door knocking? So again, major shift is performance to presence. You want to be a better salesperson. You want to be a better human. You want to be a better parent. You want to be a better leader. Be present. Listen to the needs that they have rather than performing for something that you need from them. I performed for so long that I have a bunch of ugly crying receipts to prove that. I have a bunch of moments that you break down because you're not meant to carry a performance. You're meant to be yourself. And when you lose that part of who you are, it's sad and it's depressing, and it takes so much more from you to rebuild from that place than from a place of, okay, I'm going through this right now. Like, let me build up from here rather than I don't know who the hell I am anymore and I got to rebuild from that. And that's harder. Shift number 4. And this one hits home for a lot of high achieving people. It is from isolation to connection. What does that mean? That means that we have been told a lie that we need to carry things alone, that we need to be the ones that are putting the weight on our shoulders and trucking through and leading people, and we've got this. And there are moments in your life that isolation is important, but if it's done with wisdom and if it's done with letting that be a training ground for you, right? Where you need to isolate yourself from certain people or certain groups or certain environments, right? But then there's the lie of mind over matter that you don't need anybody and that you're meant to carry this alone and that you can't share what you're feeling with anybody. That, my dear, it is the worst thing that you can do as a human being, because you need people. You need people to carry you through. And it's not even just to carry you, but just to give you sometimes a lift, to give you like a leg up. Guys, there's times where I don't even want to record. There's times where I am down and beat and just, who am I to share some things? It's happened. Matter of fact, today, before I even started, recording, I called, one of my people in my inner circle, and just them hearing them and just letting them say, like, girl, you look great. Like, your hair is amazing. Like, you've got this. Like, I was like, oh yeah. And again, it's not because I needed that validation, but man, it feels good to hear it. It feels good to know that what I'm doing matters and that I should keep doing it. You cannot rob somebody that cares for you the opportunity to show up for you. And I want this to land. If you feel like you're too much for somebody and you feel like you don't want to inconvenience someone with what you're feeling, you're robbing that person from being able to be there for you and from being able to share a love and a gratitude and even a perspective that they have. You're robbing that person from sharing that with you. And we need people's perspective. We need people's, ideas and creativity and opinions sometimes, because it helps us realize that we're not in this by ourselves and that there is another option and there is another roadmap out and there's a different layout that we haven't seen for our lives that can actually be extremely beneficial and can actually kind of take a couple, shortcuts out of us being such a long and dreadful journey. There's a huge difference from, sacred isolation, where I would say that you're choosing solitude to become better, and this is something that you're choosing, than a fearful isolation because you feel like, well, I can't share with people that I feel like I'm failing right now. No, that is fearful isolation. That is you limiting yourself and robbing yourself from the opportunity to hear a better option for your life or a better roadmap to what you're doing. I mean, if I was so fearful of, sharing with people my struggles or some of the things that was challenging me in my business, then I wouldn't have had moments where people that I look up to and that I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to take too much of their time. Like, they're super busy, like they're crazy, they're influential, like they're amazing people that I look up to. If I was fearfully isolated, I could have limited my growth so much. But because I said, you know what, I'm going to just try to connect. And I did. And I shared with them, hey, look, I'm struggling a bit with this. How did you get through that? Or how did you deal with how these laws have changed against us? Like, I'm struggling a bit here. Can you help me out? And I've gotten ideas. I've gotten roadmaps. I've gotten to be able to overcome certain things because of connection and not allowing myself to feel like I can't connect with people and I have to be carrying this by myself. I got to figure out all the answers and all the problems because I'm the leader. No. No. You're not meant to carry this by yourself. You're meant to live within a community and be with people who build you and build each other and raise the standards for everyone else around you and even your subordinates. You don't need a crowd of people to share what you're feeling, but you do need a witness, because they're the people who are going to tell you, hey, you made it through that really difficult season of your life, and I'm really proud of you, and you're freaking killing it. That, baby, that is priceless, because sometimes you need to hear that you are strong and that you are not too much and that you really do got this, because the only way through is through all of our feelings, but we got to learn to go through them and feel them and let them make us better. This last shift is what ties everything together. It is from willpower to wisdom. It is from knowing when to push and knowing when to rest. It is probably the most important part of how to actually overcome this mindset of mind over matter. It is the place of wisdom that allows you to make decisions out of abundance and not depletion. It allows you to make decisions out of a place of just security and not desperation. It allows you to really sit with what you're dealing with and what you're going through and say, okay, I feel all of these things, but I'm not going to jump ship. I'm going to find a way through this. It is learning the difference between that willpower of just like, I gotta run and I gotta break through these walls. I don't care. Like, and saying, okay, maybe I shouldn't push this hard in this specific part of my business. Maybe I should take a step back. It might feel like a setback. It might feel like a failure. But right now, just because I don't want to look like one, I'm going to, suck it through. No, I'm going to sit back and say, okay, I'm going to find wisdom in this. And I'm going to, if I have to downsize, okay, I'm going to find wisdom in this. If I have to move offices, I would find wisdom in that. Not, I'm going to stick it through because that's the best thing that I need to make people look at me like this. No. Shift from willpower and from thinking that only you have the answers to do all of this and that you're just going to put your head down and go crazy and just run, to having wisdom, to know when to run and when to say, not the time. From acknowledging, from connecting, from showing up and being present in your life, from feeling what you're feeling, you're going to be able to have this wisdom to operate and say, this is what's going on in my life and this is what's going on inside. It's two different things. What's going on, on the exterior of your life to what's going on in the inside of your life. When you do all of these things that we've talked about, you will at that point be able to gain the influence and gain the wisdom, really, to learn to navigate and learn how to integrate all of this, to find a level ground for yourself and to balance your nervous system, which is a lot of the times where many people make their decisions. Willpower gets you moving. And let me say this, willpower is important as an entrepreneur. I'm not discrediting it at all, because I got to where I got with a lot of willpower, but I've sustained it through wisdom, because willpower, it gets you moving, but wisdom gives you the direction to where it's going to go and where it's going to grow. All right, let's land this plane. Okay. Biggest takeaway is I want you guys to learn that mind over matter doesn't mean that your mind dominates your feelings, but to give your mind the wisdom how to navigate your feelings and not let it destroy your life, but actually let it build your life the proper way. Your feelings, your body, your intuition, like all of those things, they matter. They matter. They're important to you. And you need to listen to them. Real mental resilience doesn't look like the person who never breaks down. Real mental resilience looks like the person who has broken down and has found her way out of this breaking down moment, and who has learned to move with herself and not against herself. It's somebody who gives herself the courage to feel what she's feeling and gain wisdom from what she's feeling and build the courage to continue to grow from that and head the right way. Because when you have these feelings and you don't deal with them, sometimes you just feel like you have no sense of direction because you're just in a pit. So I'm going to share with you guys again the 5 shifts. So jot them down, and I'm going to read it from here so that I don't miss not one of them. So number 1, from push through to feel through. Number 2, from suppression to acknowledgement. Number 3, from performance to presence. Number 4, from isolation to connection. And number 5, from willpower to wisdom. These are not quick fixes. These are things that you need to be very practical with yourself. So I encourage you guys all to pick one out of these 5 this week. And in 7 days, test yourself. Pick one of these things and say, okay, I'm going to practice one of these. And share with me exactly what you learned from it. Drop in the comments. Tell me what you learned. I would love to be able to be there for you, because that's what the business of becoming is. It is building this community where you feel safe to share your victories and your failures all at the same time. Guys, this is more than just content for me. This is me reminding you guys that you are friggin' warriors and that life is meant to be lived, not meant to be suppressed or meant to be just thrown in the back burner and just to get to when you can. Not at all. We all have busy lives, but we're meant to live it. We're meant to be present in them. So I can't wait to share next week's episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next week in this chair.